Welcome, everyone, to the Modern Day Overthinker podcast. My name is Colin, and I'm your host. This new episode is with Reena Friedman Watts. She is a mom, entrepreneur, podcaster, host of Better Call Daddy podcast, which is available on all platforms. I'll have a link in the description. She is also a radio host, a former television producer. She worked on a couple very popular shows, The Jerry Springer Show, as well as Nanny 911. She also is just a phenomenal person. She's awesome. She's very high driven. And we were able to talk about being a parent as well as having issues with miscarriages in the past, mental health being a common theme with her podcast guests. And we just discussed a lot, as we usually do on this podcast, and I had a great time doing it, and I hope I can be a guest on her podcast soon. We have talked about it, so it's in the works. Look for that in the future. We actually set a date to do that recording, so that'll be awesome. In the meantime, check out this episode. You'll really enjoy it. Like, subscribe, comment, review, do all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. So for the first time ever, there is a sponsor of the podcast for this episode, and that particular sponsor is a friend of mine who has a vacation rental in Cape Coral, Florida. There will be a link in the description to check it out, and if you feel like that's a good spot for you and you would like to get away, you can definitely do that. Spend some time down in Florida. And the special deal for Modern Day Overthinker listeners is if you email me a confirmation that you have booked a vacation rental at Hidden Gem is the name of the place, I will reach out to the owner of the property and he will cut your cleaning fee in half. It's normally $200. It will be cut to $100. So if you do book using the link provided in the description of this podcast, let me know. Email mdoverthinker@gmail.com, and I'll make sure you get that discount on the cleaning fee. That being said, this is episode number 72 of the Modern Day Overthinker podcast with Reena Friedman Watts. Quick disclaimer before we get started here. This was recorded virtually, so my audio did not come through the best. You can still hear me just fine. Reena sounds perfect, which is even better. Just wanted to give you that disclaimer. I will have virtual sessions sounding a lot better in the future. Just got to get the right setup. So, quick disclaimer on that. Hope it doesn't bother you. Appreciate you tuning in. Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to the Modern Day Overthinker podcast. My name is Colin, and I'm your host. Today, I have Reena Friedman Watts here with us. She is the host of Better Call Daddy podcast, and amongst other things as well. I'll let her do a little intro, but welcome, everybody, and thank you for tuning in. And I want to start by having Reena introduce herself and kind of give you a little background about what she does, and then we can kind of go from there.
Thank you so much for having me. I am an overthinker, so I fit into that
Awesome.
category. I am a mompreneur of 4 kids, 15 and under now.
Wow.
Yes, I have 3 boys and a girl. They are all back to school, so mommy is now back to kicking ass and taking names.
Freedom.
I Exactly, freedom.
Mhm.
I worked I worked for an NPR station in college, which then led me to wanting to work in radio after that. I drove up from Purdue University to Chicago, interviewed for WGN, and then didn't get the job. But while I was up there, I saw a flyer in the same courtyard that Jerry Springer was looking for interns. So I yanked off the little phone number, off the flyer, called it, walked across the courtyard to NBC Tower, and got through security and ended up starting 2 weeks later on the Jerry Springer Show. So my
That's awesome.
first job, yes, Jerry, was the Jerry Springer Show, and it honestly was the best time in my life, and it was quite a time to be alive. It was really the forefront of reality TV.
Oh yeah.
So I went from working in a talk show environment for a couple of years. I went from intern to producer in one season, had the time of my life in my early 20s, and then I moved to LA. And in LA, I had to start all the way over because I really only knew one person. So I
Hmm.
went from working on pilots of shows to taking a essentially like a glorified secretary position to three very established producers, and then doing a whole lot of networking to work my way back up to being a post-production supervisor on Nanny 911 for 3 seasons. I also was a field interviewer for VH1 and worked at E. And honestly, it was a great place to be in your 20s.
Yeah,
And
I
then,
imagine.
after that wild chapter, I met my husband online, 3rd season of working at Nanny, and I got married, had 3 kids in 4 years, joined corporate America for a bit, then tried the entrepreneurship thing, fell in love with that, and that brought me kind of to almost where I am today. I help people produce their podcasts. I've done like live in person shoots. I created a podcast of my own, and I now have 350 episodes of the Better Call Daddy show, which you were so kind to mention.
Yeah, that's a
Um, and I'm
good
I'm
run
doing
so far.
freelance marketing. So, and I can do that all from home. Occasionally I have to travel, but I'm living that best life.
Are you still in California then?
I am now in Texas. I went
Oh.
from we've lived all over. I've actually had 3 kids in 4 states. So,
Mhm. Oh wow. Is
or
your
4 kids, 3 states.
okay. Is that because of your work or your husband or
Yeah, primarily in order to climb the corporate ladder, you have
oh,
to
okay.
move. Yeah, so my husband is a software architect and he
Got it.
moved into the oil and gas industry.
Yep. That's Texas.
Yep.
Yeah, totally get it. Yeah, a lot of things that you've done over the years. That is quite the resume. And you sound like me, like what I'm doing now is just like a bunch of different stuff, like, podcasting. I'm doing marketing on the side too now and like all kinds of things and staying busy. And I also still work my 9 to 5 corporate job. So I'm just happen to be off today, which is nice. Got a bonus Labor Day, which is cool. So I'm excited about that. And yeah, it's podcasting is a different game. So what made you decide, hey, I'm going to get into this? And when did you have your first episode? Because I mean, you've had 350. So have you been doing seasons, or do you just kind of go like on a schedule and just release them every couple of weeks or every week, or what does that what does that schedule look like?
Well, since this is a podcast about mental health,
Yeah,
I will say that podcasting is therapy. Connecting with other people
it
and
is.
having a
Mhm.
shared experience has been really good therapy for me. I started about 5 years ago co-hosting someone else's podcast first. I
Okay.
was on this show called Next Level People, but
Okay.
then one of the hosts' wives had a baby and went through severe postpartum, and so it kind of fell off from that. But it really ignited something in me where I was like, "Oh, I love
Yeah.
these conversations, and it's amazing with technology what we can do today." So then I went on to work for a couple influencers. So I worked for a top podcaster. I was booking guests like Howard Schultz and Barbara Corcoran and Derek Sivers and like all of these big guests for someone else. And also I had worked in casting for America's Got Talent and a bunch of different court TV shows and divorce court. And I was like, damn, I know how to find good stories. Like I've been doing that for other people most of my career. So why can't I do it for myself? So it really started about 5 years when I co-hosted somebody's show. I was booking them guests. I was filling in on occasion. And then I started guesting on podcasts first, which I actually think is really essential. Like if you want to start a podcast, first like be able to tell your story. First go
Mm,
guest on other people's shows
yeah,
and get comfortable doing it before you try to do it yourself. It's a good idea.
it is a good idea. I did it the other way, but I I adapted, but yeah, I wish I would have done more. I think I was on one podcast before I started my podcast, and that was like a long time ago when people didn't even really know what a podcast was. So
So it started there. And then after working for that podcaster and kind of getting insight into what made a good guest and how she was getting those guests and how I was getting those guests for her and her podcast cheat sheet and her teaching other people how to do it, I decided to do it during the pandemic, really at the start of the pandemic, like so many others. And at the beginning, I was like, well, in order to start ranking on these charts, you got to crank them out, right? So I did 3 episodes a week for the first year. I was a beast. I was insane.
that is insane. Oh man, that's awesome though. I mean, Brett, that consistency is what it's all about. I mean, wow, I could not. I was doing one a week for a while, and that was enough.
And then I went down to 2 a week, and now I'm down to 1 a week. And let me tell you, doing 1 a week, you're able to research the guests better, you're able to promote the guests better, you're able to do a much better job with each episode for me. I mean, that's more
Yeah,
manageable.
and once the releases, you could do a little bit more marketing and like clips and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I've noticed that's a lot. It's a lot easier too, and also being able to find the right guests, and not just always scrambling and being like, "Oh, that's I gotta find a guest." Um, with yours, it was just I just got lucky because I found you online and through Facebook actually, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool. Another podcaster. She's doing something." And then I had like not without even like listening to anything, I saw like the description of like what you're doing and having conversations and having meaningful storytelling conversations. I'm like, that's perfect because that's kind of what I'm doing too. Just like the main theme is mental health, but like everybody's stories, like mental health is something everybody deals with in some way or another, whether they're diagnosed with something or not. I mean, everybody has a story or maybe even a relative or something where they've had to struggle besides somebody who's struggling or like dealing with like for example you've dealt with you've had multiple miscarriages. That it takes a toll, going to take a toll on your mental health, and that's not necessarily like a diagnosis, but that's obviously a traumatic situation and just trauma, a lot of trauma. That's what I've noticed the most. Is like so many people have some type of trauma in their past that they've gotten through, and most people are that I've had on are open about sharing about that, which is very awesome because that's what people want to hear because they can feel like they're not alone and they can relate to it.
Yeah, for sure. I have noticed that mental health has honestly been the common theme through probably 99% of my stories.
Yeah, and that's not even like what you were trying to like get out of it, but it just comes up because that's just it's just so it's so relatable and so or it's getting to be more normalized, getting there to talk about it.
Yeah. Although I'll say in my family, probably, just from knowing my family members, people could have been diagnosed and no one ever was. Like, it's
Oh
not
yeah,
encouraged. It wasn't encouraged. It's still not encouraged to admit to it or call it something. I feel like my family is very old school and that they're just like, you'll get through it. It'll be okay. Get back up. That
yeah,
that is the mentality in my family. And thank God I have my dad that I can like literally call in any state of mind and he can
mhm.
talk me off the ledge.
Yeah. Having those people is crucial, regardless of what you're going through. It's people that have empathy
Yes.
and
And
can
I
talk through it.
wanted our show to be a bit of that as well, where I feel like so many people need encouragement. And
Mhm.
even if they're not comfortable enough sharing, like you said, by being able to relate to these real life situations like miscarriage. I also had an emergency C-section where I had a 3-pound baby 7 weeks early. And
Oof.
the percentages of people that suffer postpartum after having a premature baby and having to go to the NICU and having 3 other kids at the time was super
Oh, so this was
high.
your this is your fourth child?
Yeah, my 4th child, and I had had a miscarriage right before him. Um, I even went to the doctor one time and she was like, you know, "Here's some resources in case," and she was asking me how I was feeling, and, I took the paper, but I never called. But I think she could even tell from, like, how I was describing the crazy and my emotions that maybe I needed to talk to someone. I think that was her nice way of saying, "Here's some resources."
Yeah, hey, just so yeah, totally get it. And
Which I appreciate that approach.
yeah,
That's better.
yeah, as opposed to like what would be a worse approach that you would say would be something that would be not effective with you?
Well, here's something that I don't think is effective that I've seen is, like, you take your kids to the pediatrician, right? Like,
Hmm.
every year for a back to school checkup. And starting, I think, around 12, around there, they have your kid fill out this survey. What kid is gonna really fill that out honestly? How they don't trust these doctors, I don't trust them, and really tell these strangers, like, how they're really feeling or what their challenges really are by
Yeah,
circling a
surveys are,
survey.
yeah, I get that because I filled out a lot of those when I was a kid, and I still have. Like I hate doing them. Like when I get like a new, I had several different therapists, and like some like have that you do that like before each session or every couple of sessions or whatever, and I'm just like, I hate this so much. Just talk to me.
Yes,
Like,
exactly. My 15-year-old, like, literally drew a line through both pages, was like, "No,"
yeah,
and then turned it back in. I was like, "You're good." The thing is we all have so many struggles. We all have bad days. We all have mania. We all have OCD. We all have depression, anxiety. It's running rampant through our
yeah,
society.
yeah,
It's called not enough sleep, not enough exercise, not eating right every day. It's a perfect storm. If you were eating healthy, exercising 5 days a week, I nursed a kid till he was 4 years old. I mean, my hormones were off for 4 years, and combined all these factors. I used to say to my husband, I'm bleeding, I'm nursing, and I'm not sleeping. You want to know why I'm not in a good mood? There you go.
yeah. A lot of factors. That's that is a lot of factors to change your mood for sure. What that is,
For years of that. Like, kids don't sleep through the night. Like, the whole first year is
yeah,
complete freaking chaos. I had
yeah.
3 kids in 4 years. Like, I was literally
A
nursing my
zombie.
2nd kid while I was pregnant with my 3rd kid. I had to stop nursing the 2nd one because it was causing contractions and trying to work.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, my brother and sister-in-law, they just had their first kid, and yeah, they're going through it with the sleep, the lack of sleep, I should say. So
Babies want their mommies, and, like, we went on a hike too, or, even just going to a friend's house and, like, walking a mile to a friend's house and, like, what if they need a diaper change? What if they want a nurse? Like, immediately, you're literally just camping out on the sidewalk and doing it. You're changing diapers on the sidewalk. You're, gotta lift up your shirt and nurse a kid on a mountain. It's
yeah, whatever you gotta do. Um,
anything to
I
make the
have
baby stop crying. Like,
noticed that breastfeeding has been way more popular uh, than it was when I was a kid. Like I was not breastfed. I don't know if my brother was. I'm the middle child. But formula was like a more popular. It seemed like, I don't know, just because it was easier. I'm guessing, or they
yeah.
probably marketed it well back then. I don't know, but it seems to be more popular now because it's obviously more natural and beneficial. I would assume you did your research on that before you started doing it.
My husband was a hippy dippy. He actually encouraged me to use a
Okay.
midwife and a doula
Okay.
for the first delivery. And that was super empowering to be able to do that. But yeah, like you said, I was just like planning on going in, getting that epidural, you
Yeah.
know.
Give me the
Th-
drugs. Just yeah.
Yeah, I
Make it
was
easy.
thinking that, but yeah, he was into trying to do things naturally and with less interventions. And what's interesting now, because I've experienced both, one versus the other, is the healing with a natural birth. It for me was, and I was younger. Like with my first one, I had my first one at 28, but like literally not a stitch. And right afterwards, I could get up and go right to the bathroom myself. With
Wow.
the fourth one, yeah, that the first three were for the most part like that. My third kid was close to 2 weeks late, and they're like, "If this baby doesn't come out soon, we're gonna induce you." So I, like, went and got acupuncture. I was super stressed out, to be honest. I was working,
Mhm.
like, almost to the day until he came, and I was swollen, and I went and did acupuncture and, like, drank this, like, herbal tea and just, like, kind of relaxed, and literally he came the next day. I mean, probably he was due, but I did feel
Yeah.
like those things were connected. Like, sometimes we're so busy, we're so stressed, we're so swollen, we're pushing ourselves to our absolute limits, and if you just slow down and relax and you know, your body will respond
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah. Because you're all tensed up, and yeah, your body
Yeah.
had to be like, okay, it's time.
It's funny because with my first one, like, I oh my god, I just saw all my friends around me where their moms were coming to help, and I was, like, feeling jealous of that, and so I invited my mom to come and help, and she's not really the helping type. She just wanted to, like, be there for the pictures, and, I was so stressed out having her in my apartment.
It made
I
it
was like,
worse.
"Why don't you come back for the party?" I literally sent her
Yeah.
away and then went into labor the next day. I felt like, again, I was so tense, the baby wouldn't even come out. I don't know if that's true, but I felt like that.
That I don't know. I wouldn't know, but it makes sense. I mean,
I held the baby in for the right moment. I don't know.
yeah, you're like, there's some people that like, I don't know if they do that because they're like, I want the baby to be born on this day, so I'm gonna hold. I don't know.
Oh, you can't stop it. You cannot stop
Yeah,
it.
I was like, you can't control that very well.
That's one thing you can't hold in.
Yeah. So four kids, and how many years? You said 5 years.
Well, the first 3 I had in 4 years, but I also had a miscarriage after my first, and I'll talk a little bit about that because
Yeah.
I honestly, like, knew nothing about miscarriages. Like, unless it happens to you, you don't really ever talk about that with someone. And so I was having severe back pain, and I've like been in a couple car wrecks before and had, prior back pain, but I did not know what this was. It was probably contractions. And I had already gone to the doctor, had already heard the heartbeat, already knew I was pregnant. And I was like, something's not right. So
Mhm.
um, I was at my parents' house when it happened, and I just decided, because a lot of times when you have, like, back pain, if you take a hot shower, that will relieve the pain. So I went and took a hot shower and, it came out, like, in the shower, and I didn't even know what that was. So I, like, picked up everything in the drain stopper, which is really gross,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and put it in a plastic bag, and then I was still having, like, such horrible back pain, I could, like, barely walk.
Mhm.
I went to the doctor, and then they told me what that was, and it was just after having a baby and going through I don't know, people have their own stories. I don't know what is worse, but, like, just hearing that and hearing that alone, like, I was literally, like, dropped off there. Um, and then sharing that with your family, like, how do you share that? Everybody already knew, and yeah, it was really emotional. I think my grandpa might have cried, probably my dad, my husband, and what was their experience, but I definitely had not heard myself cry like that. It was pretty traumatic.
Yeah, it's a loss. I mean, it's like it's weird. Yeah, you're grieving someone you never got to meet. So there's that extra layer to it. So that probably makes it more tricky, I
And
would
you
assume.
ask yourself bigger questions too. You're like, am I ever going to meet this baby? Like, what was that on a soul level? Why
Yeah.
did that have to happen? And then you're like, was
Did
I
I do
working
something
too
wrong?
much?
Yeah.
You start beating yourself up. You're like, right? Like, I had just traveled for work. Maybe I
Yeah.
shouldn't have flown. I, you know, things like
Yeah.
that. And other people say those mean things too.
Oh God. I can only imagine. I need to
Yeah,
pause for just a second, just because my mom's blowing me up. Hold on a second.
no problem.
I'll edit this. Okay. All right. We should be good. Uh, but yeah, I mean, that process. You said you've been through it a couple times. I mean, a few times. So was that the first time,
Yeah,
or
that was the first time, and then I had 2 healthy children, thank God, and then the last time or yeah, the second miscarriage, was after my 3rd kid, and I had I seen the baby on the screen? Yes, I think I had found out that I was pregnant and then gone back in, and then I think I saw on the screen that the baby was no longer there. I think I had started to bleed a little bit. Usually the bleeding is not a good sign, but what's interesting, so with the second one, I had to brace myself for the storm because it hadn't fully come out yet. Luckily, both times that it happened though, they did come out on their own, and that doesn't always happen. Like sometimes you have to have the rest taken out.
yeah,
So I went to the doctor. I got the bad news by myself again, which is the worst because these nurses, they see this every day, and sometimes their
they're numb.
bedside manner is not necessarily as empathetic as it could
Yeah.
be. And one of the nurses was like, "Are you here for the like they almost said the word abortion, and I was like,
No.
"No." 'Cause afterwards, you have to do a blood draw to see if your hormone levels are going down, because that's how they can tell whether you're
Mm,
pregnant or not pregnant and how your body's adjusting or whatever, so I had to get a blood draw, and, the blood draw person isn't in the same room with the nurse, so they're just doing the blood draws, they're not yeah, careful with how they're treating the
yeah, they don't.
patients. That really sucked. Like, that was like an extra dagger. Like, it just you're, like, having to do the walk of shame anyway of, like, walking through the waiting room of all the happy pregnant women with, like, their husbands, and then you're, like, the one it didn't work out for, and they asked you, "Are you here for an abortion?" It just sucked. Um, and you have to go home and, like, hope that it's gonna come out naturally on its own. And so this time, the second time, I went home and just took some Advil or, a Aleve or whatever, and tried to lay down and relax and hope that it would come out, and it did. But even when it comes out too, it's sad and
Yeah,
gross and weeks of letting your hormones regulate and processing it.
yeah, that a whole lot. Uh, and as a man, I'm just like I'm trying to understand this the best I can. I understand what you're saying, but as far as like
Are you like, "That's a lot." Yeah.
I can't relate to it though, you know. Uh, but I know, like I was telling you earlier, a lot of the people that listen to this show are women, so there's gonna be a lot of women that are like, okay, yeah, I've been through that, or they can relate on some level. And
And then too, like, my dad even said, I think at one point, and not that he was being insensitive, but you don't want to end on a bad note. Like, he was encouraging me to have another one. And
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, I guess that is one way to look at it, but that
ultimately it's my choice, obviously,
oh,
to
duh,
try
yeah,
or to have another kid. And I made that decision, but I did feel pressure, to be honest, to have
yeah,
another one.
yeah. You're like, oh man, I don't want to go out on that. Like, I have to make up for that or like cancel that out. That's a bad way to say it,
It
but
sucks. It really
yeah,
sucks that, like, yeah, you have to feel like in some ways that was a failure.
yeah. When it's really just life. I mean, it's
Totally out of your control, I think.
oh yeah, completely out of control. Unless you were like drinking and doing crazy stuff,
No, yeah.
then it's not. Yeah, then it's not anything like. But it's weird because there's so many like people like that, women that have been pregnant that have like been like actively using drugs or drinking, and for whatever reason they don't have miscarriages, and you're just like, how did I have? You're probably thinking like, how did I have a miscarriage when other people are like out here being reckless and they're still having kids? Like,
I've also
did you ever think
interviewed
of it that way?
women I've also interviewed women too that, had to go through IVF or weren't able to conceive, and there's a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
pressure around that, and, they're seeing these teen pregnancies happen, and yeah, they're just having a one night good time or completely unplanned, and I think there's some unfairness there too.
yeah, yeah. It's weird, and
Some people have no problem getting
oh,
pregnant. Actually, I got pregnant pretty easily. Yeah.
yeah. I have a friend of mine. I always joke with her. I'm like, I could just look at you the wrong way and you'll get pregnant. Like she could just like I was like, you need to shut the factory down at some point. Come on.
Yeah, like, pretty much the first time we tried, I got pregnant. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did
So,
you know like
we
I
didn't
know
think it was gonna happen that quickly or that easily, and, we
did
wanted
you
to make
try to
sure.
time it with like the cycle or anything, or you're just like, eh, we're just gonna start
So that's
trying.
an interesting question. We weren't like buying ovulation kits or like, I was 28, so we didn't feel super rushed. I wanted to make sure we had health insurance because, I did meet my husband when I was a freelancer in, LA, and he was a grad student, just
Ooh,
getting a job. Yeah.
yeah,
So, I thought it'd be good to have health insurance. But,
decent
you know,
idea. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was a night he like put out candles and, petals or whatever. And then, yeah,
Hmm,
we like know the night it happened. But what's
that's
interesting is,
funny.
Orthodox Jews go to a mikvah uh, once a month. So basically, you bleed for 5 days and then you wait 7 days and then you can be together. So you have to like dip in a mikvah, which is like a ritual bath before you guys can get it on. So you're together like 2 weeks out of the month, and then 2 weeks out of the month you're not. And so it's kinda like a guaranteed night of you're gonna get some. And but you're also your most fertile there, so you gotta keep that in mind.
Oh, okay.
So
So
we were doing that practice. So
okay.
it sets you up for success, but if you don't want success, then you gotta think about that too.
Yeah, you gotta
But a lot of
be
women don't know their
cautious.
bodies. I personally didn't know my cycle like that until I started that ritual.
So have you been? Are you still a practicing Orthodox Jew?
I have mellowed out quite a bit.
Yeah,
What's interesting is
Orthodox Jew light. Yeah.
yeah, what's interesting is, I grew up kind of like conservative where like, my parents would go to synagogue on weekends, but they would drive there. They bought kosher food, but then they ate out. So it's kind of like a lot of mixed
Yeah,
messages.
yeah.
Um, or they bought kosher food and then they cooked it all together. Like
Mhm.
and they still do that, and that's cool, like, do your thing, do whatever works for you. But, when I started thinking about getting married, then all of a sudden they, like, wanted me to marry Jewish, and I hadn't dated Jewish, like, most of my life, so I'm like, "Why does it matter now?"
Mm.
And So I went on kind of an exploration of what Judaism meant to me. And, is that something that is going to matter for me in my life and in my future? And so I kind of went on like this spiritual journey after I was engaged to somebody who wasn't Jewish. And so I took like a little over a year off from dating, like completely, like no sex, lots of yoga, lots of working out, lots of working, being a workaholic.
Yeah, just staying busy as possible.
Exactly.
I'm doing
Yeah,
that
kind of
right now.
manic. Yeah. And did some reflecting on, what I wanted my future house to look like. And so I got on JDate. I was like, let's try this out.
I was gonna ask which website did you use? Yeah.
Well, yeah, so JDate was actually cool back in the day. Like at the time I was doing it, there was like 10,000 people on at a time. You know what I mean? It was pretty active where I could go out pretty much breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
That's awesome. Yeah. The
Yeah.
dating apps are it's such a cesspool now. I've never been on JDate because I'm not Jewish. People think I am just the way I look, which is very weird thing in itself. But I actually grew up Catholic, so it's like, I would be cheating if I was on JDate.
Oh, there were
And
other people that were doing that. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
sure,
first the
yeah.
first question on the date is, "Are you actually?" Yeah.
But you still work in radio as well, right?
Yeah. I'm working for
Okay.
Cool.fm on Sundays. I right now I'm working 8 PM Eastern until midnight. And what's really cool about working at the radio, besides the fact that I got this wonderful new mic that makes my voice sound buttery and a new setup,
I have
uh,
one of those mics too. Yeah, they're
is I
nice.
get to work with other announcers who actually work at terrestrial radio. So this is an internet station and I get to be a part of a team and I feel like I'm learning and honing my skills and they re-air my podcast on Sunday nights at 10 PM Eastern as a special feature, which is great because it's increased my listens and it's
Oh,
another way to re-promote guests that have been the best guests. So I love that.
absolutely. That's awesome. So, talking about careers, I really want to talk about the Jerry Springer experience because that's got to be wild. I mean, how long were you there? And tell me a little bit about like just working in that environment, like, and how much of it is it all staged?
That is the number one question I get, and to be
Okay.
honest, I was there, like, in the heyday when we were actually bringing real stories, so,
Okay.
real stories are much easier to make happen on stage, like, if you have a married couple that have been together for 15 years and they have 4 kids, and then there's some bitch down the street that's been banging on the door and you bring her, it's not too hard to make that unfold on stage, right?
Oh, of
Like, the
course,
wife
yeah.
wants a piece of her.
Yeah. Just
And that was
drama.
really the bread and butter of the show was like love triangles, cheating stories. But there was also some of my favorite stories were simply like, a mother-in-law that was butting into a relationship or a hate your mate, I hate your boyfriend, I hate your girlfriend.
Oh.
So, I had a mother-in-law that hated her son's girlfriend and the mom and the daughter, oh my God. They went after each other with some real fury. Where we really did have to rip people apart. There was hair clumps on the stage, nails ripped out, sometimes they forgot what they really wanted to say, they just wanted a piece of each other.
Wow. That is so when did it get to a point where they're like, "Okay, we gotta kinda play this up a little bit more," or did
If
that
your
ever
story
happen?
gets boring, yeah, like, if
Yeah.
you can't talk, you better fight. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
if
'Cause
you
that
can't
was
get it out, you're gonna hear one of those, alarm bells of get out of your chair and go for the other person. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it became, like, a little gamified there.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, for a while there, that was like I mean, the that was the original, right, of reality TV, right?
100%. I mean, I got to book some of
'Cause
the
I was
really
really young. Because I'm not trying to make you sound a lot
I'm
older
older
than
than
me, but
you. Yeah.
but I was really young when that show started, so when it was the first, like, when did they first start that
I
show?
think it started in '98. It was
Okay.
right and I graduated high school in '97. So I went there right out of college in 2001. So it was pretty hot then. Like, I was there
Oh
pre
yeah.
9/11. What's crazy is I actually worked on the show during 9/11. I'll never forget that because we had guests in town that we literally could not get back home. Like, they couldn't get flights back home.
Yeah.
And for months, we were having to put Jerry Springer guests on trains and Greyhounds and personal
Every,
limos
no
if
one
they were
wanted to
close enough.
fly.
Nobody
Yeah.
wanted to fly. People were terrified to fly. You couldn't get a flight. It was madness trying to get these people to travel to the show. So not only did we have to like, get the whole story to agree to coming, but then we're like, how the hell are we going to get them here?
Oh yeah. And that was all filmed in LA?
Chicago.
Oh, it was filmed in Chicago?
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Yeah, it was an
So,
NBC tower. So I lived in Chicago right out of college for 3
okay.
years, and then after Chicago I moved to LA.
Okay.
I was in California for 6 years, and then I moved back to Chicago, lived in Chicago another decade, and now I'm in Texas.
Do you miss Chicago at all?
I have a love for Chicago. I've spent a lot of time there. Actually, my kids' formative years were there. So I have a lot of good memories there. But I feel like during the pandemic, Chicago, to be honest, became a very divided city.
Mm.
Um, and taxes are insane and
Yeah.
there's corruption and crime, and it just was not the same place. I mean, that is part of why we left.
Yeah. I totally understand that. Were you in the city?
I have lived all over the city. Like, oh my God, we
Okay.
technically were in the city but closer to Evanston.
Okay. Yep.
But
I
yeah,
know
my
where that's at.
address was Chicago. My kids went to school downtown. My kids went to school, you know, um, in an area where if you went a couple blocks, it changed very quickly. Down by University of Chicago. And there were
Okay.
days where I was scared to let my kids go to school because of all of the violence and all of
Yeah.
the yeah,
It's
and all
weird
of the
because it's like
news.
it's pockets of Chicago that are just like, yeah, don't go there. Like
There were
especially
riots, and I'm like, "Do I wanna put my kids on the bus that day?" And,
yeah.
I just got sick of it. I never thought we'd move until the pandemic. Yeah.
So you moved in during the pandemic or like right when it
I
started?
feel like the pandemic is, like, long lingering, still
Yeah,
kinda going on.
it's
Might
still
happen
lingering.
again,
Yeah.
but we're
I don't
not
even
gonna
wanna
be
talk about
there for the next one.
yeah, Texas is a little different
It's
approach.
like a different country here.
It is. It's massive too. Like,
First of all, I like diversity. Second of all, there's lots of opportunities here, and yes,
where in Texas are you? Like,
I'm in
which area?
Houston.
You're in Houston? Okay. I have a special love for Houston mainly because I'm such a hip hop head. Like, oh, there's so much good hip hop that's come out of Houston. Like, well, more, I don't know how much you know about hip hop, but like UGK and like Bun B, like is a rapper that I really look up to. He's actually probably age wise, he's probably in his 50s, but they just like that. I don't know why I gravitated to that in high school. Like I started listening to like Southern hip hop. I don't know.
Oh, cool.
Well, I had subs in my car, so like they love bass down there. Um, and yeah, I've always had like a special love for hip hop. I've also done hip hop myself and record. That's another like creative thing I've done throughout the years. Like
Cool.
I have a yeah, I just like to write like and writing like raps is really fun for me and it's be challenging. Um delivering them is the hardest part actually is for like actually rapping what you wrote is the toughest part. But yeah, that's another outlet for me that I'm it's weird like I go through phases mentally where I feel like okay, I need to record and it's kind of like I need to get something out and I treat it very much like therapy. And so, or if like right now somebody sent me something, they're like, "Oh, I want you to record a verse on this," like a friend of mine, and I'm like, "Man, I haven't recorded anything in a while, dude. Like, I have to like motivate myself to record." And but yeah, Houston is an awesome area. I mean, Texas in general is exploding, right?
Oh, yeah, Definitely. My husband lived here 27 years ago, and I think there's at least another million people since then.
Oh man. And what's the because I'm geographically challenged. Houston, and then how far is Houston from like Austin, for example? Like
I
uh,
think Houston from like Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, they're all kind of like 3 hours apart, which is totally drivable. Like we've gone to
yeah.
San Antonio multiple times to take the kids to like Great America or Schlitterbahn, like the water park.
Yeah, I hear a lot about Austin just because of comedy and Rogan and like how he's
Houston
just
too, though, has a comedy scene. We've already gone to
I
three
bet.
comedy clubs here. If you're ever wanting to try it out here, let me know. I have a couple connections.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm trying to do more traveling more. Like once I get to a position where I'm working on my own, and well, the thing is, the good thing about my job is I am remote, so I can kind of work from anywhere. So definitely not a good time to go to Texas right now. It's too hot. But yeah, probably maybe during the fall or the winter, I could probably make something work. I also work at for my day job is working for a benefits company, so October and November is insane. So we do enrollments and stuff like that. We're a third party, so it's like we're gearing up for that right now. So that time of year is just kind of like the Super Bowl and like where everybody just like is working a ton of hours and just like it goes by fast, but this will be my sixth one. I've been working at this company for almost 6 years now, which is insane to me because before, like, I would job hop like crazy. I used to like be all over the place, but that happens when you get sober. You actually kind of are more reliable and consistent. So
You know what, too, though, as far as job hopping, I think job hopping is like figuring out what you like doing and what you don't like doing.
yeah, oh
And I've
yeah,
done
and
that too. Like I literally left one of the best opportunities of my life because I felt burnout. Like I
I know
produced the
somebody that did
season
the
opener.
exact same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I produced the season opener and they were like happy with me and the crowd was going wild. And then one of the guests came up to me and was like, "How can you live with yourself?" And I was like, "Damn, I never thought about that." Like,
was
kind of
that on
stopped me
Jerry
in my
Springer or a
tracks.
different show?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
like, damn, you're right.
Yeah, and it was like I had heard so many of these stories and I had been pitting people against each other and I was like, "Damn, I think I can work on something else now." Like I've proven myself. I got into the Producers Guild of America. I had produced an entire season of the show. I was an associate producer for almost an entire season of another show. So I decided to just move to LA and see if I could work on something else. And I luckily worked hard and was able
Yeah,
to.
the work ethic's, I mean, key. Like so many people like don't have a work ethic. Like that is one thing. Like you talk about at your podcast, like you talk about your dad a lot. My dad, that's where I got my work ethic from. Like just like that dude is like a machine. Like it's ridiculous. Like um, always doing something, always productively working on something. Unless there's like a game on, then it's time to relax. Like if there's like a game on that he needs to watch. Other than that, like he's doing something.
That's what life is about, though, right?
And
Continuing to move.
I'm getting to that point where I don't really I used to like sit down and like watch shows and binge watch and do all that stuff. I'm just like I feel like I'm wasting my time. And I've gotten to that point with like even I'm getting better. I still dealing with depression and having like anxiety and things like that. I do have issues with like oversleeping and sleeping in like on the weekends and stuff like that or days off, which is why I wanted to schedule this earlier because I was like, that makes me get up. Like doing things like that, like forcing me to have like accountability. Otherwise, like I don't know how late I would have slept today, but doing things like that because it's just a way for me to escape, but I beat myself up for it because I know I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to be getting up, being productive, doing things. I have so many different things to work on, so many irons in the fire, like with the podcast, with stand up, with starting my social media. I'm doing social media marketing. Is that kind of what you're doing?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So trying to help people with social media because in my area, I mean, where I'm at, like if you're said you're familiar with the Quad Cities. So with the Quad Cities, we are it's not a small area, but also at the same time, it's not a big area. So like something that might be going on in Chicago, like that's new, we won't hear about it for like we won't start adapting that for another like 5 years. So we're like 5 to 10 years behind. So like doing social media marketing for people, like people are just now realizing that, oh, we need to use social media way more than we are right now. And I actually tried to start this company like 6 or 7 years ago, and I mean, it's one of those things like I can't change. I didn't succeed back then because I was not in the right headspace, but now it's like I'm trying to figure out what I want to focus on because there's so many things people need help with.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it's
So I
just
might have to
talking
pick your
about
brain on
it.
I might have to pick your brain on that because like there's just so many, and I'm doing we were talking about surveys, but adults are better with surveys than kids. But this is like an online like survey that or like an in-person survey I've been doing with people and just asking them about their social media and like what challenges they have and trying to figure out what I want to focus on and also like trying to figure out what to charge people. And I want to be a better person to work with than some of these agencies that are just like insanely like the quotes are just like ridiculous to these small business owners that like you give them a number like that and they laugh at you, you know?
Oh, yeah, that is also why I started doing it freelance, because if there's something that I can help them with, I'm willing to do things à la carte versus give me some huge retainer and you have to work with me for a month. Like, hey, you want to get on
Yeah.
5 podcasts? I can help you do that. Hey, you need 5 to 10 guests for your show and you just want somebody to like find the right people for you? I can do that. Hey, you need help with your website? Is it blog posts? Is it social media posts, right? It's like you said, finding what they need help with. Is it something that you could manage? Is it something that you could do? Is it something that you enjoy doing? A
Yeah,
lot of my business has come from that.
yeah. Yeah, I enjoy doing it. It's just my biggest thing is yeah, mainly just like keeping up with like Instagram and Facebook. That's like because like some of the that's actually been refreshing to hear because most people are like I'm like, "Oh, what social," like, the first question I ask people, like, "What social networks you on?" They're like, "Oh, Facebook and Instagram, and that's it." I'm like, "Sweet. I don't have to deal with a bunch of different ones." Like,
You're like, now I don't
uh,
have to be on TikTok. Now I don't have to be on Threads. Now I don't have to be on
yeah.
YouTube. Now I don't have to be, yeah,
I
LinkedIn.
have you used Threads at all? I downloaded it, and I have done nothing. So, just because I'm like, I'm on everything else, I'm like, I don't need another app, but I kinda wanna mess with it because I'm intrigued. That's kinda how I was with TikTok, like, when TikTok started getting popular and I started hearing about it more, I'm like, "I can't do it because I don't wanna get sucked in," and then I was like, I now I, like, love TikTok. So,
Really? That's funny. So I think you kind of need to have a profile everywhere. Just so if that's somebody's preferred means of contacting you, then at least they can contact you there. But as
I
far as,
agree.
yeah,
But you focusing on, like, around the Quad Cities, like, if you bring up TikTok to a lot of people, they mostly, if they have it, they don't post on it or they don't use it at all, or they're like me, like the way I was, and we're like, "I'm good. I don't need any more apps," or they're like, I don't want China stealing my data," or they're on that page, you know?
I have to say my daughter got kicked off of TikTok because she is not of age, and then TikTok wanted her to present an ID, and I'm like, "There is no way you're taking a picture of my ID or an ID for you front and back and sending it to China. Thank you and no."
Yeah, I had to do that for
So,
Facebook to get the check mark.
heck no. I was like, "Make videos on your phone if you wanna dance, and don't use that app natively."
Yeah. That is a misconception about TikTok, though, like, for kids, yeah, like, the dancing and stuff like that, but, like, there's so much more to it than that, as you know, like,
Yeah.
there's different realms and like worlds of TikTok.
Comedy
Uh,
on there is amazing. I love the
that's
reaction videos.
Oh yeah, I've been doing. I actually, if you, I don't know if you've seen my TikTok yet, but I was doing more reaction videos. Those were like actually really fun. Like I would react to like women who were just on there like that were just like super hot and like barely doing anything, and then I would just react because like it was just easy target, and other women just loved it. I was just like, all right, I gotta keep doing these, and I fell off a little bit. I've been posting more like stand-up clips. Um, but also at the same time, I gotta watch it with stand-up clips because I don't want to put too much out there. Because then if you come to the show, you're just gonna hear the same thing. But
I also wonder that. I was thinking, like, because we're getting
yeah,
ready to go to Austin soon, and my husband was looking up a comedian that's performing around when we're going to be there. And I'm like, if you watch his whole set online, like, we're literally going to hear a repeat performance.
who is it?
Forgot.
Well,
It's not Rogan. It's not,
no, no,
it's
no.
at the mothership though.
Yeah, that's. I just want to check that place out. It looks really
Me
cool.
too.
Yeah. My, I'm actually opening for a guy at the end of the month who's been on. Have you heard of Kill Tony?
I love Kill Tony.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, this is he's so funny.
Hinchcliffe, yeah,
He's such a good roaster. But
he is.
yeah, but I've got a guy, his name's Alomeen. He has been on there twice. He has a golden ticket actually.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, so he can be on there whenever he wants. And I'm opening for him at the end of this month actually. Yeah.
Congrats. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's only been doing comedy for like a few years. Like he was like really new when he went there. That's the funny thing about that show is like people just sometimes it's their first time and they just go up there in a minute and kill and you're just like, wow. And then you got people that have been doing comedy for like 4 years and they bomb and you're like, oh yeah,
It's not as easy as it looks. Me and my husband took improv at Second City together just for like date
for
night
fun.
for
Yeah.
fun. Yeah. And it's impressive when somebody can get up there and just nail it in a minute.
Yeah, a minute's a
I
that
have respect for that.
I've never done a minute. I've done 3 minutes. But yeah, usually it's at least five. Like last night, I did 6 or 7. I did an open mic. There wasn't that many comics, but there was a good crowd, so I was just like got up there and just did the hits and stuck with that, and that was fun. I recorded. I have to watch that recording to see if it's as I set myself at a. I don't know if you have this problem, and it's something like we could talk about like before we wrap up here. I know we're getting close to time. This doesn't have the thing about Zoom, it doesn't have a timer that I can see. I thought it did, and I screwed that up. I apologize. But I haven't used Zoom in a while for podcasts. But I set really, really high expectations for myself, like almost unrealistic, like to the point where like if I do well, I still don't think I did well. Like there's always that part of me that's like, but you could have done this, you screwed that up. Like I don't look at myself with I can do it with other people. I can look at stuff like oh you did a really good job at this and like have a glass half full approach. But when it comes to me, like I just am my own worst critic. I don't know if you have that issue or not, or can relate to
Definitely.
that, but
Definitely.
it's
Even after I have like a super amazing phone call with someone, like I
yeah,
just had a pitch meeting yesterday with a very important, exciting project that I'm potentially
yeah,
working on. And I felt in my gut that it felt so good. Like I felt like the two people that I connected, it went really well. But I still needed to hear it from both parties
yeah. You need that
before I
validation.
trusted it. I
Yeah,
always need validation. I'm a words of affirmation person too.
yep, yep, yep.
Even when I feel like I knock it out of the park, I want other people to tell me that. I wish I didn't need that.
Yeah, I was lucky enough. At first, I was like, I don't know how I did. I heard a couple things like other comedians. You never know if they're just like being supportive or not. If they tell you like, "Hey, good set, man," or if they're just saying it or if they actually mean it. But I walked out last night and there was a couple that were sitting up front. and they said something. The guy said something to me on my way out. I was like, oh, okay, I didn't do that bad. And and he meant it too. I could tell. Um, because he was a part of my act too, because he was sitting up front. So he kind of
I
opened the
wonder if
door.
some of these bigger comedians still need that.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I could. It'd be weird if they didn't.
Like, do you ever get to a point where you're just like, I freaking know I'm good?
Yeah. So I know some people. I do know some people like that, but like, I feel like people who are naturally like gravitated towards this, like this was like stand-up comedy just made sense to me to do because I've always been someone that's been like I'm not always like the funniest guy in the room, but like if you get me going onto something, it's just like it's over. Like and I was always a class clown. I love the attention. It
I
was
want to hear some stories now.
yeah. I got kicked out of class once a week at least minimum, and because I could not just let like if a teacher said something and there was like a way for me to make a joke out of it, it was happening. I couldn't I could not help myself. Like especially like oh health class, like when we're talking about sex and stuff, they might as well have just left me out of that whole lesson. Like just because
I love when my kids come home and they're like, yeah, so and so totally yelled penis today. I'm like,
oh yeah, the
that's
penis yelling game, that was a classic. Yeah, friends of mine did that. Who could yell the
or like
loudest?
threw a class plant at the wall or
Yeah, wild stuff. Uh,
but that's like
yeah,
the best memories. There has to be a little of that.
yeah. I remember I got in trouble
I'm
once
not
for
admitting to
some.
anything here, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. I got in trouble once for something I didn't do though. So somebody threw an I think it was an apple at somebody at lunch, and it hit him in the head, and it like exploded like uh, and I was definitely right there and saw it, but I didn't throw it. And the dean at the time brought me into the office and was like, I know you threw that apple. Like, I'm like, no, you don't, because I didn't. And I was just like, you know me. I've been here a million times. I'll tell you if I did it. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you or try to say like I've always been pretty honest. Like, I don't really try to hide stuff like that. Like if you got me, you got me. But I was like, no, like I did not do this. And I'm like, you know who did it. She was afraid of this kid. Like this kid was like uh a kid that he was intimidating. Like I was always cool. That's the thing with me. Like I'm always like people are like, intimidating can be intimidating and I'm like I can always get through that barrier to them because I can get through it to them with comedy. I can get through them by making jokes or saying something funny and they're like, "Oh, this guy's all right." And if you can make somebody laugh, like it's it's game over. You're gonna be on their good side. And I'm on a lot of people's good side that you don't want to be on their bad side. But yeah, I didn't get in trouble eventually. I stood my ground because I didn't do anything. I don't think he ever got approached for it because she was just so scared of him. It was hilarious. Something. I'm surprised. This was towards the end of lunch. Otherwise, there would have probably been a food fight. We actually tried to do a food fight on our last day of school, seniors, like as a senior prank, but nobody was able to keep it a secret. So there was like not a million teachers, but there was a bunch of teachers in there and they were ready for somebody to throw something. I was like,
Darn. Somebody should have like been brave.
yeah, I thought about it, but I was like already on thin ice anyway, I think. So, and I didn't want to like, I was on the baseball team. I didn't want to get in trouble with that too. And no,
See, that's a
yeah,
thing that I feel like is kind of missing in school today is they've cut breaks in between classes and they're so strict about a short lunch and they say you're in school to learn, but I'm like you're also, I mean, maybe this is like my bad parenting, but I'm like you're also in school to have friends. And like even my 10-year-old said to me, like, can we get to school a little early this week? Because I just want to talk to my friends before I have to go
Yeah,
into class.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Uh, yeah, it's yeah, so many good times of just, like, being able to, like, hang out at lunch or b I was never early for school, I was always after school kinda guy. Yeah, and doing, like, extracurricular stuff, and yeah, that's weird that I understand, like, because obviously the teachers and the people who work there just wanna get shit done, but they gotta look at it from the other perspective as well, like, human interaction in general is not good right now. It's not going well. Like us doing this is not normal. Like having this conversation for this long period of time. And that's why I like doing the podcast because I like having conversations like this. Sometimes it's the only like lengthy conversation I have in a week, which is insane. But
Yeah, same.
it's like that's another reason why I keep doing it is for myself just to have those conversations with people and be able to communicate the old-fashioned way, even though we're doing it through a computer, but still, like, it's so weird, like, people don't and you having kids, I mean, the way they communicate is just so weird, like,
Well,
to
one thing
me,
that
like
I realized during the pandemic too is like so much of this stuff that we create unnecessary stress over. Like I have a son that's a lot like me and he's a perfectionist. I'm at
mhm,
like a recovering perfectionist,
yeah,
workaholic
same,
type. He was like, I am putting so much pressure on myself to get like he got straight A's last year, but he was a little insane around it. And he was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get an
unhealthy,
F. Yeah. He was like, and I was like, "You know what? An F to him is like literally a B or a C." You know what I mean? I was like, "I'm not putting that pressure on you to get straight A's. Like, if you'll be less insane, I'm okay with that." Like,
yeah,
it's hard too because in life the cheaters are rewarded. Like he literally could cheat to get an A, but he's actually trying to learn it. And, you know, yesterday in school, his teacher said, circle the ones that you need help with or you have questions on. I mean, they're 8 days in at this point. You know what I mean? And then he circled more than she allowed to explain. And then she was like, okay, I'm only going to give you a 50 on this, like, since you didn't answer enough of them. And he's like, wait, I'm being penalized because I followed what you told me to do. I actually want to learn the material and you're going to give me an F for that? So that just like ruined his entire day where he came home on like a tirade where it's for a kid that cares and that's a perfectionist, that's like such the wrong approach.
yeah,
So then he's like, "Oh, I'm just going to, you know, F it." And I'm like, "Okay, do it. F it. I don't care." I'm like, "That's not really what you want though." He's like, "Don't
yeah,
reverse psychology me." You know?
yeah, it's true though, that's not what he wants,
But I'm like
uh,
that too. I
yeah,
am so like that. Like, I want my videos to be great. I want my shows to be great. I want my
yeah,
customers to love me. But that is honestly not how you learn.
no,
You learn from the screw ups.
oh yeah,
You learn from the unairable shows,
yeah, I've had a couple of
which I've
those.
had.
Yeah, I've had a couple of those. One of those where I was the guest and on somebody else's podcast, and we've been scrambling to try to record it again. And I'm like, "Ah, man,
Let
and then
me
I
tell you
just
something about that too. I've had guests that like we just I don't know, have different communication styles or maybe the questions I ask, it just doesn't flow. And I've done a couple repeat episodes and sometimes the repeat ones are worse than the original try.
yeah, because you're trying too hard to make it work and
So
force
sometimes
it.
it's better just to be like, "Look, I like you. I like your content.
Yeah, even like when I sent
Call
you
it a
out those,
day."
even when I sent you out those questions, I'm like, I don't normally do that, so I'm kind of glad you didn't even like you didn't like send them back, so I would like read them off the paper and be like, oh, um, but because that like people have asked me many times, they're like, "Oh, do you have like a format or like and like they like, people that are have that kind of brain, you know?" I'm
Yeah.
just like, "No, I don't do that because then what's the point of having a podcast if it's just going to be like scripted the whole time?" you know?
Yeah, I would love to speak to that a little bit because I had a guest yesterday who has produced 12 reality shows, and he
Okay.
is a producer mind and a
Yeah, he's
director
all
mind,
about
and
that.
he really he sent me the questions I should ask him, and there's so many people that try to do that, and I was like,
Ah,
"Thank you for the suggestions. I know you. I wanna just have a conversation." Like, I
yeah,
personally, as a host, do better not sounding like I'm reading. And even when I started at the radio station, we had certain lines that we had to read about the station, we
yeah,
had, like, catchphrases or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
I'm like, "Give
Plugs.
me a rough outline, but I don't wanna sound like I'm reading." And I produce a healthcare podcast, and it's scripted, and I even tell the guests, I'm like, "You've written the answers to the questions that you know you're gonna be asked. Please don't look at them during the recording,
Yeah.
because if you look at them, I can hear it."
Hmm. Yep.
And I've heard you do it on 2 other healthcare podcasts, so let's make this one different. I wanna make it sound conversational. Like, let's breathe some life into this subject matter.
Yeah, and also like me not knowing stuff makes me more engaged and want to ask more questions as well. So like sometimes like the less I know, the better. So I can, because I'm just a curious person in general, and that like gets the ball rolling, get me asking more questions and opening more doors and things like that. So
So I think it's good to research people, like, check out their Instagram,
yeah,
check
I
out
did it
their
like
Facebook,
yeah,
right? But don't over prepare either. Have, like, a general idea of their story,
general idea.
but don't know it
Yeah,
all. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You don't need to come in like yeah, like crazy, like knowing like how do you even know that? Like
I've
that's
had
just
that a couple times where I'm like, "Damn, okay, I think I stalked them too much." But, like, yeah, you
yeah,
don't wanna know, like, oh, where they were born, where they went to college, who their best friend was.
yeah, yeah. That would be a little weird.
You're like, "You talked to who before this interview? What?" I actually did that to this one podcaster who he's a good friend of mine now, but, like, I saw that he was in, like, a bunch of posts with this guy on Instagram, and I was like, "Hey, I'm getting ready to interview your friend." The
What should I
friend
say?
reached out to the podcaster and was like, "Do you know her?" Like, she reached out to me.
Oh, you ruined
He
it,
was like,
dude.
"Way to do
Yeah,
your research, Reena."
yeah. Hey, that that is actually a good idea though. I don't think that's a terrible thing to do. Is like talk to
Here's
somebody that
another
already.
one. So, like, if you look up somebody on LinkedIn and you look at their last 3 recommendations from people that they've worked with, you could say, "Hey, I saw that you wrote a glowing recommendation of so and so. I'm getting ready to interview them. What's something that I should ask? What would you like to know about that person?" I've done that a bunch, and a lot of times that works well.
Oh, okay, yeah. I just started interviewing people at work. Uh, and that's been interesting. I'd never done it before. Like I worked my way up into leadership, and this was the first year I actually interviewed people, and I was just like, oh, I mean, I interview people on the podcast, which help me like make it easier and more comfortable. But at the same time, like they made me ask certain questions, and I was like, ugh, I don't like this scripted stuff. Like, so I went off script multiple times. I was just like, obviously asked the questions that were needed to be asked because it was like the first round interview. There was still a second round interview, but like I still asked like at golf cup or like oh that's interesting. Tell me a little bit about that or like you know just because I was interested, just to get them talking.
I feel like I'd be afraid to interview people while I work with them in case that job doesn't work out. It's kind of similar, like, I moved to a new city, and when you move to a new city and you connect with other podcasters, you're like, "Should we collab?" But then you're like, "What if I get to know them better and I don't like them, and then we
Mm,
live in the same place?" So I like to kinda, like, get to know some people and, like, make sure it's a good
yeah.
idea before I, like, know that they're forever gonna be on my platform.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, thinking about the long game too. Like that's why I didn't do that. That's why I'm not having politicians on. Um, at least local politicians. I did have Spike Cohen on my podcast though, which was kind of a cool one. But we didn't talk about politics though, really. We actually talked about sobriety because he's in recovery. Well, he's been sober for a long time. So, um, We talked about that a lot. So it wasn't
I'm gonna
just
check that
that.
out.
And also, I was like, he's not a Republican, he's a libertarian. So I was like, people don't hear from them ever. So it's like, it was an interesting person to talk to. But yeah, when it comes to like, I was like, I already turned down one mayor. I'm not a mayor candidate. I can't just let the other one on. And if I do, I'm gonna have to interview the other guy. And like, I don't want this to be a political podcast at all. So, but that was just a wild. I didn't like. It was one of those where you send an email like just for the hell of it, just to see if they respond, and or a DM or whatever. Like, hey, you interested? And yeah, they reached out real quick. I'm like, hell yeah. Like, I did not think that. It was just like I just like threw out a line. It's like I don't know if I'll catch anything or not, but you never know. Like that's one thing I need to work on is I don't ask people enough. Like I don't reach out enough to ask people because I'm like, they're not gonna do it. Like I put in my head like why 'cause I know better. I know like that's how you get the good people on your podcast is by asking. You have to ask the question. They're not just gonna come to you and be like, hey, can I be on your podcast? Unless it's a huge podcast. Unless you're like, on like a weird, crazy Rogan level, no one's gonna be like, hey, can I be on your podcast? Unless like they're like a friend of yours or something like that. I have friends that ask me sometimes.
I think you should literally throw a line out to Rogan today.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw out a lot in. You know who I really want to have on that is like would be like I would lose my shit would be Theo Von. Like that's the comedian Theo Von. He's been on Rogan before, but he's had his own podcast. He's a comedian, but he's just so relatable. Like some of the stuff he talks about, he's also, in recovery and he loves some of the same substances that I loved and also and he's a comedian, so we talk about that too. And he's just like a very open book. And his I don't know if you've ever checked out his podcast. It's called This Past Weekend. I watch a lot of the clips because I don't, when you produce your own podcast, you don't really have time to listen to other people's podcasts like in full. So I will just like watch clips, and that's why I started doing videos so I could put out clips because that gets people engaged. Or some people just only watch your clips, which is fine.
Yeah. I think that if people see enough of your clips and enough of your clips that they relate to, that
Then
eventually sends them
yeah,
over to long form.
yeah, yeah, you have to get it a few times. Yeah, because I've eventually watched one of the long forms. Like, cause it got pulled from YouTube actually because he had Roseanne on.
I was just going to say, I literally reached out to Roseanne last week. I've been listening to her podcast. She interviewed Alex Stein, who I interviewed kind of before he like majorly blew up. He's like her guest 9 or something. So I listened to that episode and then I started listening to a couple other episodes because I freaking love her. I've loved
Oh
her
yeah,
since I was a little girl. Like I watched
yeah,
the Roseanne show with my mom
yeah. She's an
and
icon.
I freaking love her. And so I signed up for her newsletter, which I barely ever do. Like,
Yeah,
I hate spam,
me too.
but hers are short and they really just link you to her episode. And I
I need to
responded to
start
one
doing
of her
something like that.
emails. I responded to one of her emails and was like, even though your audio wasn't the greatest because you were in Hawaii at the time this was recorded, that didn't even bug me. I freaking love your podcast. I love how you think about humanity. And I wrote her back and I got a response. She just said, I don't even know if it was her. It could have just been her team, but she said, thank you so much with a heart from me responding to her newsletter. So then I was like, ooh, somebody responds here. Noted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's how I've actually gotten hard to reach people too, is I'll test different means. I'll sign up for their newsletter, I'll @sign them on Instagram and share them in my stories. I'll share their content in my
Mm.
stories. I will comment on their content, see if I get any replies, and then make notes of, did they look at my story? Did they reply? Did they reply to a newsletter? Do they have an email? I
Yeah.
say throw out the line. If you really want that, Theo, go for him. I mean, I love what you just said too. That was such a personalized reason as to why you want him. I was interviewing this guy Lance Shuttler. I haven't aired it yet. Couple days ago, and his father passed away by suicide, and then he kind of changed the course of his life by going into studying more brain health and supplements and the health system and all of that. So he has like a supplement company now.
Mhm.
And after our interview, like the very last thing that I basically said to him, if there's anybody that you feel would be a good introduction, just let me know. And he was like, well, I saw that you interviewed James Altucher, and I know that James Altucher speaks about mental health. Then he went back in his room, pulled out a James Altucher book, and told me why he loves James. He's a comedian, he's a chess player, he talks about mental health. I was like, oh, wait, let me hit record again. We're going to make
Mhm.
a clip together right now. I'm going to edit it special for you, and I'm going to send it to James. I don't know if that guarantees you that James will respond, but I'm friends with James's editor. And how cool that you have the book handy, that you have a personal story. I'm going to send it for you. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. It's really about putting those lines of communication out and trying. Well, we need to get wrapped up here just because we're running as usual. I like to talk, so but I want to, before we close things out, I want to ask, like, I'm trying to think of a good way to close things, and one thing I thought of recently was like asking people just a basic question, just for the listeners. What's something you would say to someone who's like, who might be listening to this podcast and struggling with something like mentally, or like just having a tough time and trying to keep going and moving forward? What would be your words of advice? Like, because obviously you've been through tough things yourself.
Yeah, that's a great question. I was actually thinking of a quote. I was like, is he going to ask me if if I'm going to leave him with a
Or
quote? A lot of people do that.
if you have a favorite quote, that works too.
But here's what I'll say. I'm going to kind of combine the two answers. I have this quote, you know, when I was in middle school, I was kind of going through awkward years of, not fitting in and
Oh yeah.
being bullied. I was bullied. I was chased home from school, and I went to summer camp, and one of my counselors was into reading like dark poetry, and I felt like I really resonated with that poetry at the time. She introduced me to Sylvia Plath, who, ended up taking her own life, but there was and Anne Sexton. I forgot which one of them said it, but one said, I was once beautiful and now I'm myself. And that
Mhm.
has stayed with me for so long because I felt like I had to put on makeup and I had to be skinny and I had to be pretty to be liked or to be promoted. And the more I'm raw, the more I just show up as who I am, the more I accept who I am, the less edited I am, the more happy and comfortable you become. So that's what I would say. And then, as far as if you're going through a hard time, you've got to find somebody that has loved you in all of your different phases. So for like me, it's my dad. He is my
Mhm.
number one motivator, my number one fan. Like I said, I can literally call him in tears. I can call him yelling. I can call him cursing. I can call him in any state and he
Mhm.
won't get off the phone with me. So if it's a friend, if it's a relative, if you want to call my dad, do that. No, but
Here's his
he'll
number.
adopt you.
Yeah.
But you got to find somebody who's seen you in your best light and can help remember you of those times when you
Mhm.
were yourself and when you believed in yourself. Even in giving speeches or performances, if I'm nervous or if I'm anxious or I don't think I can do something, I try to remember I've produced the Jerry Springer show. I've put my hand
Remembering
through a
those
piece of
things. Yeah.
yeah, put my hand through a piece of wood at Tony Robbins when that board looked too thick for me to even comprehend doing it. I got to think of those breakthrough moments of when I did something that I never thought I could do.
Mhm. Yeah. Those are huge. Remembering that, like the things that you have already been through.
That I didn't think I ever could.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, I did that. This is nothing. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, perspective wise. I appreciate you sharing that. I think that's a great way to wrap up for everybody, and I appreciate you taking the time. I'm glad you had the extra time too. That was a blessing as well. So I'm gonna wrap up the recording here, but I appreciate your time. And just before we wrap up, if you want to let people know do a shameless plug of where to find you so they know. I'll put it in the description too. Obviously, I do that so it's easier. So, but if you want to just let people know where they can find you on social media or find the podcast, I'm assuming it's everywhere.
Yeah, thank you so much. BetterCallDaddy.com, which was newly made over because I won a name cheap contest.
Hell yeah.
So I'm very proud of my website now. Check out BetterCallDaddy.com. And then you can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Reena Friedman Watts, Twitter, not so much TikTok, but I am there.
I am there. Not so much TikTok. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.